In this episode of Teachers Off Duty, we're talking everything hiring tips, tricks, and sizing up the competition. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome to Teachers Off Duty. Today's episode, we are talking about the hiring process for teachers and what that is like, because I don't know if you know, but we need some teachers right now. There's a little bit of a shortage.
And depending on the state, this is literally what they do. Got a pulse? In the
Get
classroom. Here we go.
Right,
Get on in
You're
there.
in there.
Yeah.
Florida, I'm talking about you, brother. I'm talking about you, man.
Anything
It's
goes.
weird.
The fact that
It's scary right now.
Yeah.
The fact that we film in Florida and rag on Florida so much all the time.
It's a little chef kiss moment for them.
I always have like really bad anxiety in the interview.
Really?
Yeah, I'm one of those people, like, if nobody's watching me, like, I can do something, but the second like admin or somebody comes in, I all of a sudden don't know how to teach or use my words.
Oh, really?
Just forget English.
I'm like, I don't know why. Like, it's like I can't breathe in an interview or something.
What is for y'all? What is the interview? So when you're doing early childhood stuff, usually part of the interview is like a teaching sample of them watching you teach.
Ooh.
I would for sure not get hired.
Yeah.
I would be too nervous.
I did not have to do that I've heard in my area. I know that there are schools that do that.
Yeah.
I have never had to do a teaching
It's terrifying.
sample.
I interviewed right out of college for a health position in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Shout out.
Grand Forest
No
or
one's
Grand
there, baby.
Forks?
Who you shouting out
No
to?
one's there. Grand Forks.
So I was interviewing for it, and they said, hey, one of the things that we want you to do is we want you to give a 10-minute lesson on sex ed to the interview
For your
people.
interview?
To them, though.
To them. So I had a room full of administrators and other teachers, and I had to give the introduction lesson to STDs. So here's what the lesson I did. I had all these balls, and on them they all they had a different STD, and some of them had STDs, some had just nothing on them. So I start off like, oh, who in here knows how to catch? And the principal goes, I do. You go, all right, here we go. And I give him a toss, and I go, you just caught herpes.
What the
That
heck?
was
In the
how is
middle
that
of
the
your-
lesson?
Because then you catch it. You catch it. You just caught herpes. And then
This was where'd you get the balls from? Like, did you know?
I brought them in. Yeah, so they didn't offer me the job. I thought they would, but it ended up being a good lesson. So you start off with a joke. Actually, here's why I didn't get the job.
great hook.
They actually told me. They told me why I didn't get the job. They said, "Hey, we really, really loved you. It was a really tough decision, but the person who we hired is a former doctor, and they want to change in career path." And I said, I get
Never
it.
said.
I get why you went with them.
So they're an idiot for making how much money? That you can make $35,000 and
sign me up.
yeah.
Grand Forks, North
You get
Dakota?
insulted by 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot. The doctors will go
Baby.
to
Yeah.
UT. Somebody who's a doctor that has left.
Doctorship.
Doctorship. Medicine
Somebody who's left
practicing.
medicine and went to
See why
education.
we're
Like,
not
why?
doctors.
My
Like,
biology
why?
teacher did that. She was like a lab tech or something, or she was like a, I don't know, she worked in
Yeah.
a lab, and then she came to do biology.
I was gonna be a doctor. The only
McDreamy.
reason why I'm not, the only reason why I didn't become a doctor was because I just, cared so much about the kids. It wasn't because I couldn't get into med school.
No, it wasn't
anything
the,
like
That you don't
you
like
passed
blood?
out at the sight of blood.
It wasn't that pass out the
He
sight
does
of blood.
pass out at the sight of blood,
Yeah.
doesn't he?
That was the only reason why. It wasn't
Yeah.
because I wasn't
Same
smart
with
enough.
why you went to D2 school,
I
right?
could have it was kind of just like that.
I could have been a D1 athlete and a doctor, and
But
actually
my
the
knee,
Olympics.
I had, Mr. Olympics. They said, "Hey, do you want to run this year?" I said, "I can't. I got a knee issue." They said, "You want to be a doctor?" I said, "No,
I'm too
I gotta
smart.
be a teacher. I'm too smart to be a doctor."
I think it's and I know you probably have no problem with this, Gabe, at all with what we're talking about. But I think one of the awkward things about interviews is you have to talk like really highly of yourself.
It's
one of my
weird.
strengths is my humility. I always tell them that right away.
I'm
Make
so
your weakness
humble.
strength.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about that.
What's your biggest weakness? I just work too darn hard.
I'm too invested in my career.
Why do they make us do that? Because everybody knows we're BSing in the interview.
Oh, I
like
don't.
the interviewer knows that we're BSing. We know we're BSing. Like, why do everybody knows that's part of the game to take a weakness and turn it into
I do the weak. I don't know why. And I've never not been hired. I probably because I didn't throw STD balls at people, but like
catching herpes.
Yeah, I go in and I'll be like, "What's your weakness?" I'm like, sometimes I get I'll say something of why. I sometimes get a little disorganized because I like to stay really engaged with the kids, and like, or I'll be I know I have to work on paperwork, but I just like, you know, the one-on-one interactions. So I'm telling them something I'm not good at because I'm able to do something else. But I'm not gonna listen. I'm gonna say, I'm just like, I'm very like due diligent and I'm like super organized because they're gonna be like, that is not true.
Too invested.
Too invested. My dad was telling me about one of the interview committees. He was always on the interview committee, and they had an interview, and they asked the question, "What's one of your weaknesses?" And they go, probably classroom management. And they all looked at each other and they were like, well, we appreciate you coming in.
Okay,
We appreciate
why?
it.
Go home.
Why would
Go
you
home.
say it?
Somebody told you to be too honest.
Too
in
honest.
the interview,
Yeah, they were
sorry.
being a little too
No, I'm nervous.
honest.
I have to sit in on interviews this week for the first time I've ever done it. Like, I'm so.
They trying to make you an admin.
I'm so
girl.
anxious. I don't.
Would you ever be a principal?
I don't
She's
know.
dean of students, yo.
Yeah, that's not. We've talked about this though. That's not a principal job.
I think it is.
That's what I'm saying. I wonder
Principal
if you would
Woolley.
ever be an admin.
I don't know. I like being able to like build relationships with the kids, and I don't want to be the one that they only code to when they're in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's like hard for me, but I digress. So I'm like really nervous about doing these interviews, and like
You're
like
sitting
what
in
are
on more
some.
than one.
Yeah, from like my principal calls me last week and she's like, I need you Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 4:45, and I was like, for what? She goes, interviews.
They gonna get somebody to watch your class?
Oh, yeah. So for the last hour of the day, I have to sit in on interviews. And like, what are like some questions that you guys have gotten in interviews before that were either like really good or really pointless?
Here's one. Here's a great one. I was doing mock interviews in college.
Mock interviews.
I really enjoyed them, and I had my interview with the athletic director, and the last question that he said, "Why are manhole covers round?" And I was like, "What? Why are I don't know." And I sat there and was thinking about it, and said, "Well, maybe it's so." I gave some sort of BS answer, and then at the end of it, we kind of talked about it, and he said, "Hey, here's why I asked that question. I asked that question at the end of every single interview because I want to see if someone is willing to say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that question. I'll get back to you on it tomorrow, and I'm going to figure it out." I said, "Oh, okay." And then I said, "Did I pass the test?" He goes, "Nope." Because I tried
What
BSing
did
my
you
way
say?
through it.
Did you try to?
I said something just freaking dumb. I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's the shape of how it, when your cars drive over it. And that real answer is because it won't ever fall in because it's round. Like the manhole.
Oh my
gosh. Yeah. That's my reaction too.
My thing was I just thought if the edges ever stuck up, it would pop the tire.
Oh, that could be it too.
Not me over here like, what's a manhole cover?
A manhole cover? Like the sewer cover.
Like a Ninja Turtles.
Wow, okay, bet.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, what were some of the questions that you guys have been asked?
I always like the question at the end when they're like, do you have any questions for us? I'm like, can I get like 5 minutes? I just met y'all. Can I get like 5 minutes to write down some questions I got? Like, I need a second to think. Because when they ask you like on the spot.
You're like, nope, I think I'm good.
I can't because I'm so
And you can't think of
nervous about
anything.
the interview that I'm like, my brain is like gone.
I always have the questions ready. Going into it, I already have 5 prepped.
See, but I feel like I don't want to ask them.
You should always
know what I mean?
ask.
Yeah, always ask.
Yeah, but it's hard.
I'm not interviewing anymore.
Like, I'm not going anywhere.
Good. But like when I was going through the interviewing process, like I always made sure I researched the school like ahead of time and like knew a little bit about like always look at their website and stuff. Like they usually have like pictures on there you can see. But like I've always gotten the question, why blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, like, why do you want to go to John Forks High School or what? I don't know, whatever name it is. And like,
Who is John Fork?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I was just trying to make
I
it
thought it was someone. Yeah.
Wait, is that Gabe's brother?
Yes.
John Forks.
But you like, I don't know, like you get nervous because you're like, I don't want to give them the wrong answer,
Yeah.
you know, or not say what they want me to say. And I feel like now being on the other side of things, like going to sit in on interviews, like I don't want to set people up for questions that like I'm looking for a specific answer to. I just want to learn about that person.
I will always, at the end of an interview, ask them, how does your mission statement, you ask them, do you know your guys' mission statement? Know the mission statement of the school or wherever
Home run every
to go.
time. I always recite
do you know your mission statement? And that's not what they're asking. You're asking them if they know their own mission statement they built. And
you
then
don't like get nervous asking them that, thinking
Never.
like I'm...
No, because I know it. I checked it before I got here.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like you don't get anxious going like, do you know your mission statement?
No, I said, do you guys know your mission statement? And if they look at me, then I paraphrase the mission statement and I say, how does your school's mission statement, like, how do you implement that into your day-to-day here? Because mission statements are great, unless
But if
you're
not
implementing them.
yeah.
And I've always seen like smirk across the face, like when I've done that. When I was interviewing for positions as a therapist, I was asking about the mission statement of the places I went to, because I need to know that your mission statement reflects what you're doing in there, and you just see them smiling ear to
I would
ear.
always end mine on that. After I ask the questions, I would say, hey, I would love to work at your school. Your mission statement is blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
I think I'd be a great fit, and I can definitely accomplish that mission statement. Home run every time.
When they ask me, why should we hire you? I'm like, because y'all hiring.
Because I saw you needed someone.
Because I need a
saw the
job.
help wanted sign
Oh
in
my
the
gosh.
yard.
It's like
and-
y'all called me. Y'all the one said y'all was hiring. Y'all had a sign out front that said we hiring.
No,
I
but
found
like
out-
other things I would
If you
say,
do
like,
that, you're not gonna get the job.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
No, I was gonna say other things I would say is like even if you don't intend on like taking that teaching position, go to as many interviews as you can, because like it just helps getting experience interviewing with people. Like I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty lucky because like being in speech for so long, I felt like I was so prepared for interviews, and like I was still nervous, but like I didn't feel like I didn't know what I was gonna say. And I was like really good at communicating what I wanted to say. And I actually had like the principals of the school, after I was done with my interview, they would go, "Did you do speech?" And like,
wow.
like they would actually like ask me. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I did." And they're like, "I could tell." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Go
Sorry.
ahead. No, I want to hear it, baby.
I also even though we need teachers, I don't want people to go into their interview cocky, because you're for sure not going to get hired.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
even though, like, because don't go in it with like, oh, they need teachers. Like, I got this.
Like
they're
hype
gonna hire
yourself
me.
up, but don't
Right, for
sound
sure,
cocky,
hype yourself up. But I know we crack jokes like people just hiring anybody, and that is.
In some
That
cases
is-
they do,
some
but
cases
yeah,
they do, but
most of the
don't
time.
just automatically assume. Because I still have heard from some teachers that they're like, I just graduated from college. Like I can't.
I've
I can't
heard-
job. 'Cause
I
some
sure
states
have.
do have stronger
Yeah.
school
Don't
systems than
half-ass your
others.
interview.
No.
Don't
Yeah,
half-ass it.
Don't-
even if you feel like you got it, and do not half-ass your interview.
No,
do it
because which is so weird, because I've heard of so many people who've graduated who've been like, I can't find a teaching job, and
I
I'm
have
like,
too, which is so
there's like
surprising.
thousands of vacancies in just your area sometimes. So I'm like, what is going on? But if it's that
See, for
If you're not
standard,
mine-
certified, like a lot of sped positions are open. It's like, oh, we have 15 sped
Yeah.
positions.
Yeah.
Well, you might have left with a ed degree, but you're not qualified to
Yep.
See, for my
teach
area,
sped.
like, I don't know if you guys have the same thing. Like, we have all these different educational service centers, and they, like, post all the job
Yep.
postings for all the different schools.
Yeah.
So, like, when I graduated college, I couldn't find a job right off the bat
Right.
either. And I was panicking. It was, like, July. I'm thinking, like, I'm not going to have a job
Yeah.
next year. And then I was lucky to get into the school I was at. I literally interviewed at any school that popped up there, and I like for 3 years I couldn't get a job anywhere else. Every single summer
Yeah.
I was applying at different schools, interviewing at different schools. I could not get hired to save my life, and I thought I was like, I'm not good enough, they're not going to hire
Yeah.
me. And sometimes it's just like they end up hiring, or someone moves around internally and they
Yeah.
fill the job.
Oh,
or
yeah.
sometimes somebody else comes in, and it's like, I hate to say it, but it's not nepotism, but sometimes it's like, oh, I know this person, so I'm going to put them in that spot.
Exactly. Or they were my principal last year. The principal moved over, but I'm
Yeah.
and I will always talk to you about privilege until I am blue in the face. There's a reason why I've got every job I've applied for. It's because I'm a male in early childhood, which is so rare. So I speak Spanish, right? And those things together, I will always, unfortunately, not the Puerto Rican thing. We need to be bilingual, but just because I'm a guy, I feel like is times that I've gotten even an interview at places where people are like, I've applied there 6 times, I've never gotten. I'm like,
wow.
I'm so sorry because they think I'm more effective than I am. But like,
the other thing I had an issue with when I was applying at a couple of places, I literally had a principal that called me and said, like, we really appreciate you applying, but we're looking for someone with more experience. I was right out of college, and I literally said to her, it was a first grade job. I student taught in first grade.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I can understand that, but I don't understand how you expect me to get experience if you don't want to give me a chance.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I understand, but we're going to go a different direction. I was like, okay. And I ended up getting, my first job. I learned a lot in those first 3 years. And then before I got to my school that I'm at now, I was going to leave teaching because I couldn't.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't handle it anymore. It was like the school I was at, that heightened my anxiety to an unhealthy level. And I couldn't get hired anywhere else. I was literally interviewing left and right.
Burnt out on the
I
whole
was so
process.
burnt out. And I was like, I'm going to quit teaching altogether. I actually started the process of becoming an officer in the Air Force. And
okay,
I was like,
Top
Kelly.
Gun.
Okay, Miss Mama.
my grandpa was in the Air Force, and like I had spoken to recruiters when I was a senior in high school. And my mom was like, no, and then so I went into teaching, and then I was like gonna go do that. And I actually my mom was like, just give it one more chance, see if you can go to find one more job. So I saw this school that was hiring. I applied. I had never heard of the school before. It's literally 20 minutes from my house. Never even heard of it. Didn't know where it was. And I go to this interview, and on the way there, I had to use my GPS to get there because I didn't know where it was. And because it's in like the middle of nowhere, the GPS cut out.
Oh.
And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be late for my
There's
interview.
nothing worse.
No.
There's nothing worse.
So I'm panicking. I get there on time, and then they asked me to come back for a second interview the next morning at 8 a.m. The GPS does the same thing.
Oh, no.
It took me a different way, so I couldn't even remember the way I had gone the day before.
It's a conspiracy.
But then, like, they interviewed me, and then like an hour later called me and offered me the job. And I took it, and I was like, all right, if this doesn't work out, I'm done. I'm not teaching anymore.
Yeah.
So I gave it one more shot, and then I've been there ever since.
There are some principals that will block teachers from transitioning schools too.
Yep.
Like I know in the district that I worked in, you had to, because it was such a large school district, if you wanted to transition to another school, you had to have the approval of your principal in order to be able to transition.
To like leave?
Yeah.
To transfer.
Transfer inter-district, like in the same
So you'd be a
school
transfer,
district.
not a rehire.
So so you would be a transfer, not a rehire, but you also couldn't transfer to another school until you've been at that school for 3 years.
Oh, I don't know if that was a thing at my school. It might have been, but there were transfers left and right because the school district I taught at first was huge.
Yeah.
But the new one, it's so small. Like people
One
don't
building.
leave. People don't leave because like they're like people who teach at my school now have been there for like 20 years.
Yeah.
It's like you work there and you don't leave, and it's a nice place to work. I'm not gonna lie.
When I interviewed for the position that got me into the district I'm in now, man, I was swinging for the frickin' fences because I had applied for a lot of jobs, and I got offered a number of jobs, but it just didn't work out because I was applying for jobs right when COVID happened. So schools shut down that spring. The job that I had, I was kind of like a long-term float sub kind of at this high school. And then they said, hey, we're not going to bring you back because COVID, everything's changing. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. So I moved home, moved out of North Dakota, went down to South Dakota, lived in my parents' basement. I was broke. Like I was a hurting unit. And I was
G-Unit heart.
I was a hurting G unit. I was applying for jobs and, just wasn't getting some of them. I had no experience in like no full-time teaching experience. And then I saw this 6th grade science teacher position open, and it was late July when I applied for this.
Oh my gosh.
And I was thinking, this is the last job I can apply for. I need to swing for the fences on this. So I had my resume printed out, and when I got into the interview, I went through every point bit by bit of my resume, just really trying hard. And then I got the job, and I found out later that once I walked out of the interview, that the principal looked at the interview committee and went, does he know that we can actually read his resume and he doesn't have to go through it point by point?
My boy said y'all ain't gonna miss not a point.
So I ended up getting the job, but dude, if I wouldn't have gotten that job, I don't know what I mean, that job has changed my life.
I used to hate growing up with my name. Because it's a stupid name, but it's weird. Y'all, it's unique. But I hated it growing up.
He's
but
like,
now,
don't BS me.
Yeah, don't lie to me. But now, doing interviews for anything, I started realizing this when I was getting ready to go to college, because you had to do interviews for college if you wanted to go into like a theater program, which is what I thought I wanted to do. They'd interview you, and I realized the start of every interview I've ever done is this your real name? Can you tell me about your name? Because it is such a unique name. So I have yet to go to an interview where it's not an icebreaker, where they'll ask me about it. I'm like, yeah, my parents, I'm the fourth too, so they've made the mistake 4 times. Or I'll do my parents, yep, they had a good sense of humor. Yeah,
I would like. So it's that's a good.
I'm like, nope, it's not short for anything. Yes, my real name is Tell. Yes, my parents have a sense of humor. And then like we would joke about that, but it's always a nice way to ease into the interview. Yeah. I think my nightmarish. I think we all have probably had nightmare interviews like your STD balls, but I think my nightmare interview, I was gonna wait to get a job when I had moved. Yeah. I wanted to wait a little bit. I was like, I don't want to do it right away. Let's give myself like 2 or 3 weeks to get acclimated to the area. So I interviewed for this place. I thought it went well. They said, can you come back tomorrow and do the sample teaching thing? So I go do the sample teaching thing. It's fine. It went well. Like, and I go back up and they were like, yeah, we'll call you. And I didn't get a call back. And at this point, I really wanted this job. I loved it and I'm devastated. And then I had also interviewed for a first grade teaching position in the city. And I went the first day. I signed all the paperwork, because they hired me. And I go into that classroom and I made it to lunch. And I said, this is not for me. And I was like, gone. So I called the place that I had interviewed the first one. I'm like, hey, just wanted to follow up. Like, I know I sent you guys an email. I'm like, we've called you. And I'm like, I haven't got a call. The school had a flood. And so they thought they had called me and they didn't, and the class would be taking over. A pipe burst. So I spent the entire time thinking that they didn't want to hire me, and they're like, no, we thought you didn't call me. They're like, oh my gosh, no, the school's flooded. Want to come work for us? And it was my classroom.
My God.
Oh my God.
So you've experienced a school flood and a school fire?
Yeah. Well, the school ended, and it wasn't the same school. It was, yeah.
Did you guys ever say something real stupid in an interview?
Yeah.
I'm sure I did. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I block out my interviews because I'd be nervous.
Yeah. What makes you nervous about them, Brie? Let's unpack that. Seriously.
I don't know why.
Because you're being judged.
I wonder if it's like maybe from my childhood. I don't know. Like, I really don't know. Like, maybe I have like a unrealistic fear of authority or something like that. I don't know. Like, I think I'm a people pleaser, and I don't want to like not do good. Yeah. I don't know if that's like a growing up playing basketball and like wanting to please my coach and wanting
kind
to
of thing.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's like a fear of rejection or a fear of failure.
See, for me, it's like I know I'm being judged by these people. Like that's literally the purpose of this. And then I also have fear of like rejection, and I don't want to be a failure. So I felt that. It's
like you don't want to say the wrong thing. I'm like, I don't know. The crazy thing is I always do. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I do good in interviews.
Yeah,
like
you talk real good.
I just you're from Mississippi, but you talk good. Like,
talk good.
I always do well in an interview. But for some reason going in, I'm like so nervous. And a lot of times, like I'm honest about it. I'm like, I'm excited to shut up.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here, but I'm a little nervous. Like I get, nervous for interviews, and I'm very honest about it. But the school I interviewed at, like that's like the only interview I can remember not being nervous at. I don't know if it was because I was like, okay, either it's meant to be or it's not meant to be, because I had went back to teaching and I was subbing, and I started back subbing in October, right before Halloween. I don't know why I would do that. and then was subbing in, October, November, December. And by like the middle of November, I was like, okay, I think I do want to go back to teaching. So I started applying, started reaching out to principals. And everybody was like, we don't have anything. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not meant to be. And I happened to check my email that I don't ever check, because for some reason I have like 16 trillion Gmail accounts. I don't know why. But I happened to check like
they just appear.
I don't know why I have so many. I happened to check like my Gmail account, and I had an email from the principal that hired me, and she was like, can you come in for an interview? And I remember like before I was like, I was kind of like you. I was like, if I don't get this job, like
Yeah.
I'm probably just supposed to do social media, like just do my social media and not go back to teaching. And so in the interview, it was kind of like I don't have anything to lose. Like if I get the job, that's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
If I don't get it, it's fine. Like I'll just, keep doing. So that was the only one. And I think it's because I think I'm nervous in interviews because I put too much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And that interview, I was like, friend, we ain't got nothing to lose. Like we just.
Well, and there's something to be said as you become more comfortable with your abilities too, because I think the fear of rejection of someone being like, I don't like, so and so because I don't like the color of their hair. Like it's like I like the but when you're interviewing for a job, it's your intellect. And that is harder, and especially if you're being told no several times, or you're being judged purely based off of your ability to do something that you went to school to learn how to do, and that is what you
and you think you
want to do.
Think you're good at it, and you're like, well, this person obviously doesn't.
Right, and like you can change if you don't like your hair or the outfit you're wearing. Someone's rejects the like of that. That's different than someone being like, you're not good enough to teach here, and it's not that you're not good enough. It's just for our standards.
We just don't like this.
Yeah.
But you just gestured to all of me.
any young teacher interviewing to get a teaching spot right now, when you get told no about the job, don't beat yourself up about it, because there's a number of different things. Like I've learned since I've been working in schools, there is so much behind the scenes that you don't see.
It's not always you.
Yeah,
No,
it's not.
No.
Like there's a lot of times when a job opens, they already have a dude picked out.
They already have somebody
they already
in
have their
mind.
guy. They know who they're going to put in there, but they have to have it open to everybody else. And you might be super qualified, but
It's like a formality.
that happens.
Yeah.
So it's not always your fault.
And think about the schools. Like we know, right? And we want to give grace and like we talked about a few episodes back, like the kid Bobby last year might not be Bobby this year. Right. But you also know if you have a fourth grade position to fill and the third grade class last year was rough and those third graders coming into fourth grade and you interview for the job and you're a new teacher, or you seem you seem very timid, or like you'd be great for kindergarten, but like this class is going to be rough and I'm setting you up for failure by you being hired here. We'd hire you as a kindergarten teacher, but we don't have the position open. And I think sometimes people need
the place that's being filled also that they look at.
Yeah.
And the dynamics of the team that you're joining.
Correct.
Now they
Something that
they do look at they do look.
Well, I was just gonna say something that I do is like, when I was interviewing, I kept all my stuff from student teaching. Like if it was like a project I did or something that I could like put in a binder, I had like a portfolio that I would bring with me. And I'd put like sample lesson plans that I wrote. I would bring all of my like papers that said like all the tests that I passed that said I could teach, my license or whatever, and then like I took pictures while I was student teaching of different things I did in the classroom, so I could be like, here, I brought this with me if you'd like to take a look at it. These are some of the things that I've done, and like kind of as a way to show them what you can do on top of just like talking about it. So I mean that seemed to be helpful.
Take a file of no out of whatever. The child development licensure that you have to do classes before you can even go for the licensure exam. And part of that process is that you have to have a portfolio, a giant binder, and they even tell you the size of the binder it needs to be. And they will say, we need you to pick out 20 books that are about equity, diversity, inclusion, race, all that stuff. And you have to pick out those books and why you'd read them in class. And this is a national credential to teach preschool. On top of your schooling, you have to do this thing. And so when you go to interviews, you would now have a binder ready for people to look at, that they can sit there and say, hey, like this is what you would do in this situation. This is what an example lesson plan. This is how you'd run a classroom with that.
It's hard for them to gauge like everything that you're able to do in like a 20-minute interview.
It's really easy to say, hey, I do a lot of cool, innovative things. All right, show me.
Yeah.
Don't tell me, show me.
Yeah.
Speaking of don't tell me, show me, it's a perfect transition for this week's episode of Good or Garbage. I want to talk about online applications for schools. These things are the absolute craziest, massive waste of time. Here's why. Why do I have to fill in 1,000 questions about what I've done, my work experience, things like that, when I can just upload you my resume that has everything on there? When I was applying for jobs, the amount of time that was wasted having to fill these forms out that took a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes every single school, it was insane. You know where else all that information is? On my resume. Just read it.
Because they make you upload your resume
They sure
too.
do.
All this stuff.
And
We
they
have
still
like,
and a
what's
cover
it called?
letter.
We have like Applitrack or something, and
Yeah.
it's like you had to fill it out, but it was for the entire county. So like every school in the county, when they put out a vacancy, like they'll get your application. Even if you didn't apply for that school, they'll get your application, and then if they want to set up an interview with you, they can. But to do that for every school, that would suck.
Yeah, so if you haven't been able to tell, those are garbage. Absolute garbage.
I become enraged when I have to do that because I'm like, it's in my resume. And like, especially when it comes to phone numbers of like your reference calls, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
They ask you the address of your reference. I'm like,
I've never.
What are you going to do? Why do you need their address,
sometimes
huh?
You gotta show up at their house.
Yeah.
Sometimes they genuinely are asking for because they're not asking for the school address.
No.
I'm like, what you need that home address for?
I don't put it in. I
You
put
ain't making
not
no home
applicable.
visits.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't
Listen,
know.
okay, so when I applied at the school that I'm teaching at now, we all know like employers look at your social media and stuff. If you didn't already know that, learn that now.
Yep.
You don't know
Anything
that.
inappropriate you got on there, take it down.
Best delete it ASAP.
Yeah. So
ASAP's possible.
when I was applying for this job, my principal must have known somebody that I know.
Yeah.
It was one of my dad's close friends.
Okay.
And so he calls me and he goes, "Hey, are you applying for like a school in so and so?" I was like, "Yeah, why do you know that?" And he's like, "Well, the principal just called me. I'm friends with her because she saw that we were friends on Facebook or whatever and called to see if you were like, a genuine person or whatever." And I was like, that's so crazy. Like, I never knew that they did. Like, I'm like, I thought that's what references were for.
Facebook
Why are you
out
calling
here
people I
creeping.
No,
Like a detective.
They
Right.
creeping.
FBI.
That's weird to me. Like I've always thought it was weird that they would do that. And I remember being in school in graduate school for social work, and we actually cannot ever look up a client on social media or Google.
Really?
We can never.
What?
You cannot.
Yeah.
It is because then you are going to create a bias about your client before knowing them. But it was so strange. So I was like, the amount of times I gone for an interview. First of all, like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. It's weird that like you would sit there like this is the information I'm giving you though. Like that's like you said. That's why there's a reference. Call them. And if you don't if you want a fifth reference,
luckily,
fine.
I mean, it went well, and it was fine. But I was just like, I didn't know they did that. Like, I didn't know that they could just like pick someone off my friends list and call them.
Right. I don't know that they can.
It's like, we know him.
We know them, and they're right here.
This is totally random, but speaking of Facebook, on Facebook where it shows you like people you may know, have you ever seen somebody you thought you was friends with on Facebook and they show up in your people you may know and you're like, dang,
I thought we did know.
we were friends.
I thought we did know.
They deleted you off their
I get
friend
embarrassed
list.
sometimes when I like hit the send friend request button. I don't know. I just feel like kind of shameful whenever I do it.
I
Is
don't.
this somebody you want to be friends
Gabe's
with?
like, I want people to ask me to be their friend.
They just ask me.
I don't want to ask
I
them
don't
to
know
be
why.
their
Wow.
Weird.
I couldn't figure out
Feels weird
why.
to me.
When I first moved and started at this school, I couldn't figure out why felt like all at one time, all of my coworkers sent me friend requests on Facebook. They didn't. You know how there's a difference between accept friend request and then after you get through all those, then it says add friend. I'm just adding like 20 some people.
That is so
because
funny.
I see the I'm dyslexic, so I see A and then I see A in double letter, and so I saw when you accept a request and I see add request or add friend,
They
and
were
I'm
like,
just
Tal, it's not even the first day of school. We don't know you yet.
and it was people I didn't even see. Like I knew they worked there, or I saw that their face was on, like, because our faces are on our doors and stuff like that. So I was like, oh my gosh, and then you can't delete that
funny, dude.
because you know they get a.
They're going to see it. They get a notification that says,
I've been real close to doing that. I've been really close to doing the same thing. That's why it makes me laugh so much.
I was like,
I
I'm
have
popular.
a few people that do that on Snapchat. They'll like add me on Snapchat,
No, you
and
don't.
I let it sit in the inbox. I'm like, I don't want to add you back.
I'm good.
I'm like, I don't want you to see what I'm doing.
if you're a
Right.
first year teacher, you better wait till you start working, till you add them people so you can see who the work snitch is. Because you ain't want to add the work snitch. And I don't never add any principal to my friends list.
I think the weird thing is like when you're doing the interview process and they're like, what's your relationship with your students, your parents? And I'm like, they always add me to Facebook. I don't know why. Like, they're always I'm the one asking them
They
apparently.
love me. Well, doesn't it? What does it say? Like suggested friends or something like that?
No, it doesn't. So it's
Like people you may know, and then add.
It's like add, and there's
Facebook
like
be
when people
sneaky.
send you a request, it says accept friend.
Yeah, but this is when
Right,
you're
but
done with
then
accepting
underneath it
everyone, then it starts to go to add. And like I like I don't know, guys, I don't know, but then it's like.
I was like, man, he's really eager to work here, man.
I just love everyone. And the thing is, don't do that before the interview because if they find out you added the whole school, they're like,
Hey,
he's
yeah,
a little
yeah.
too excited about this job. Too excited about
Okay, so
it.
if you had to give like, I mean, I want to say new teachers, but anybody really
Yeah.
applying for a job, if you had to give like your top one piece of advice or tip that you would give them, what would it be?
Look nice. I'm a big believer in you go in with your resume paper copy and
Read it.
read it off word by word.
Multiple copies.
Multiple copies.
That you can't make.
That's not under his list of special skills.
Yeah, I can't use the copy machine.
Cannot use
Don't know
copy
how
machine.
to.
This is a
But-
weird thing. Sorry, go ahead. You can finish yours.
No, but like I always go in and then I give all of them my resume and,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
talk about it. And go from there.
You always follow up after the interview and say thank you for interviewing me.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate meeting y'all. Also, like I don't know if this is considered weird or not, but I just remember like our dean of students in college telling us this to not wear perfume or cologne to the interview.
yeah.
Why?
They just was like, what if you wear a fragrance or something that the
they hate.
interviewer doesn't
Or they're
like?
allergic to it.
Or they're allergic to it and they can't focus on the interview because your perfume stinks.
I didn't
or
even
your
think of
cologne
that.
or something.
I douse
is-
myself in. I'm not going to hold it.
Yeah, so I don't think I doused myself, but I was like, I don't want to smell rank in an interview.
Yeah.
So
Well,
let
that's
me
why you
go
take a
ahead and-
bath before
Oh.
what the?
Well,
Here-
yeah,
here's another
but
tip.
when you're nervous
Here's another tip.
and you sweat,
If you just took a bath,
If
you
you're
should be
interviewing
straight.
in the summer, there's a very good chance that the air conditioner is not going to be running,
Yeah.
and
That's
it's going to be
true.
hot
It's
as the
hot.
dickens. So what happened to me when I interviewed for this job, the one that I got, I had completely sweat through my shirt. I destroyed it. I had a suit jacket over the top of it, so you couldn't
That's-
see it.
There's a
I
little-
got in the car, and my shirt had changed colors. I had sweat through that
my
thing.
gosh.
No.
And I was like, I'm so glad I wore that
This
sport
man had a
coat.
suit jacket on.
Not-
Sport coat.
Not for me.
You bougie.
So mine is like a very like technical one. If you're nervous at going in, a trick you can do up until your interview, don't do it during your interview, but you know the scares of walking in, get a spearmint gum and chew on it because your body will confuse itself into thinking it's not nervous because it'll think it's eating, and mint helps your stomach if it's nervous. And so
Really?
if you're doing that up until your interview, you can trick your body to think it's eating something. Obviously spit it out before the interview, but it could help calm you down a little bit before
It's like
going
teaching
in.
some witchcraft.
It is. I mean, you know,
okay.
it's listen. I'm. You know? Yeah. What's
That's a good
yours?
tip.
mine would be research the school ahead
Yep.
of time.
Yeah.
Like, don't go in because literally
Yeah.
every interview I've ever gone to, they ask me why I want to teach at their school. And you need to have something to say. Tell them why.
And
like,
not because you're hiring.
Because y'all
Yeah.
hiring. Y'all
Nah.
call me.
nah, like I'll look through their school website. I'll look through like usually schools that have like teacher pages. They'll
Yeah.
you can look through the teacher pages and stuff. And like if they know that you went online and like took the initiative to learn about
Yep.
their school and their community, like they'll see that you
Yeah.
really want to work
Yeah.
there.
I hope this doesn't sound weird, but I would be leery of a school that's too eager to hire you. And the only reason that I say that is because some schools are such like toxic environments. They've just had like 30 teachers leave.
Turnover like crazy.
Yeah.
Their turnover is quick, and like it's kind of an intuition thing. Like I'm not telling you to be prideful or whatever. Like they just seem like they want me too much. That is not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What there will be some telltale signs during the interview
trust your
that they
instinct.
are too eager to hire you. If they don't ask you anything about the subject that you're teaching or your teaching style or how you deal with parents, there's just some important questions
Yeah.
that need to be asked during the interview that if they are not asked, and then it's always a red flag to me if before you leave the interview they tell you you're hired.
Yeah.
That's always a red flag to me.
Yeah.
and
That's like
be
a
careful
you need
of what
people.
the jobs they're gonna make you do. I was so excited when I got accepted to teach this position. I told my dad about it, and he's like, "If you take that spot, I'm kicking you out of the house." I was like, "What do you mean?" So here's what happened. So I
mad.
interviewed for this position.
Love your dad.
And they gave me the spot, and they said, "Here's what you're gonna teach. You're gonna teach physics, physical science, chemistry, and run the internship program." And I was a first year, like I just finished college, and
You
they said
needed a job.
I needed a job, and I was like, yes, they offered me the job, and I called
doing
my dad.
all the jobs.
Yeah, I called my dad and I told him, and he's like, wait, what do they want you to do? And I said it again, and he said, if you take that job, I'm kicking you out of the house. I was like, why? He's like, they're giving you every spot that they cannot fill.
Yeah.
They're setting you up to fail.
Failure.
Yeah.
And schools will do that. And then I was mad and heck at my dad. I was like, this is crap. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So I called one of my professors. She had the same exact reaction. She was like, I think you could probably do it. You're a smart guy. But why would you put yourself in that situation?
That would be so hard to
That'd
teach
be
all 4 of those
Oh,
subjects.
Well, and not to mention
Impossible.
the internship cost needs to be is sounds like a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
Because you can't effectively do that and make sure the kids are somewhere safe and they're being,
Right.
you know, advised. And that. And I think you're like both if they're offering you too much and if they seem too eager. I also love that you're in the interview process, because something I've asked in interviews before is when you're sitting there like I'm the principal and I'm like, why don't we have any teacher representation here? Is there someone I can talk to?
Yeah, because I mean, in all honesty, like the teachers are the ones who already work there are going to be the ones working with that person.
Exactly.
Not really directly the principal.
Right.
So I mean, if you're not in the classroom anymore, like we know what we should be expecting to
Absolutely.
see if you want someone successful in that classroom. But like I don't know. I just feel like with interviews, it could be hit or miss.
Yeah.
And also, if you're like a new teacher and you're fresh out of college and you like, don't be, like Bree was saying, don't be too eager to just take whatever job you get thrown at you. Like, do your research on the school. If they offer you the job, like, don't be afraid to say, like, could I please have some time to think about it?
Yep.
Because I think sometimes people think if they say that,
They say that they're gonna be like, oh, we don't want you anymore. No, they're not. They're gonna give you your time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, like, if you do your research on the school and you know you're not happy with it, don't just take that job because you're like, I need a full-time job straight out of school. Sometimes to get your feet wet in education, you might get hired, like in elementary, you might get hired as an LLI instructor.
Yep.
Might get hired for reading recovery, like long-term sub positions.
Yep.
Anything to get experience is not a bad thing.
And
I had that mindset, and that kind of screwed me over, and that's why I ended up in the position I was in. So,
And I think that what you said, that's a really, like, I started out subbing at first. And I think that helped me because I got so much experience in so many different classes. And to sit there and just be like, well, if I didn't get a job teaching, I'm just not going to, that's it I'll try again next year. But it's like, if you can get a job anywhere in the school, whether, you know, it be permanent subbing or what have you, you're showing one, initiative that you really want to do this. And two, like, I feel like in a sense, like after 11 years of teaching, like subbing and doing social and emotional skills this past year was one of the best things I did, and I wish I would have done it earlier on because it kind of gave me a revamped idea of everything. And I think, and it gave me a lot of experience to say, oh yeah, I've this is my adaptability. This is what, you know, I was reliable. I would come in and fill in these classes. And I don't know. It's tough.
I've never see. That's what I regret because I never had that experience.
Yeah.
Like I got
Well, you didn't
hired,
know too.
right? And but the thing is, I was like you. I got offered the job at the school that I was at, and I had so many people that were like, "Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't
Oh,
take
you
that
did
job."
have people that told you.
I did, and I was stubborn.
They
And
don't
I
know
was
what
like,
they
"It's a
know. Yeah.
full-time job. I got a full-time job at a school. I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I need money." And then I took the job, and like. Luckily, it all panned out, and I got a lot of experience there. I learned a lot of things. I think I became a much better teacher teaching there. It did, harm me in some ways,
Yeah.
but I mean, I didn't listen to people that were telling me like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Would you ever have? Because I think a lot of people don't think about this, but like you said, you got experience from subbing. Did it ever cross your mind, like, if I don't? Because you said, if I don't get this job, like, I'm gonna have to figure out something else to do. Did it ever cross your mind to sub and then try to get in as a? Because sometimes subbing is like
that was the only option.
So
So here's what I did before I was a full-time teacher. So I first started in what's called the AVID program. So I was an AVID tutor. So
what is that?
It's a lot of like STEM. It's a lot of kind of hands-on stuff with the kids.
cool.
So they would have tutors come in from the outside and essentially we'd co-teach.
Yeah.
So I did that for a number of years, like 2 or 3 years. And then I started subbing I couldn't get my true sub license yet in North Dakota. So I started subbing as an EA. As a para.
Well, what's is the process like?
I
hard
needed
to be a sub?
no. I needed a certain amount of credits.
You have to have some amount of
in
college
college.
hours.
So
yeah,
then I
okay.
subbed as a para, and then I started full time subbing. Or not full time, but that was my job when I was in college, and then student taught, and then kept. I stayed in the high school that I was at. that I student taught in, and then COVID happened and it flipped the world.
And I
But
think that's the thing to do.
it really is.
We wouldn't have any subs if they had to have undergraduate credits.
Oh, really?
We wouldn't have no subs.
Wow,
None.
really?
As a TA, if you want to be a teacher assistant, you got to have some college credits to be a teacher assistant.
But not a
But to
substitute.
sub, you got to be 18.
Just need a pulse.
And you
Wow.
got to be 18 and older.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I fully know what Ohio's like subbing licensure.
I think in
laws is.
Indiana it was like 20 some college credit hours.
Yeah.
But now I think they're doing a thing. Pennsylvania is trying to do a thing, and someone can tell me, comment. But it's something along the lines of their student, like they can get paid for their internship somehow, or they work in that actual position or something. There's more of an incentive to do it because they're having a hard time finding teachers. But
Wow.
I think I like what you're
That's
saying of
crazy.
like when you're wow, that's wild.
Right.
But I think something that if you're able to, right, is when you're in school, rather than being like, either I'm not going to work at all, even though if you have the time to be like, I'm just going to enjoy the college experience. It's like, if you're going to school for teaching, a great thing would be for you to sub once or twice a
Get in
week
the
because you're
door.
getting that experience.
Yeah, you
and
need
so
to.
when you're graduating, they're like, well, you don't have an experience that you can be like, well, student teaching is experience, you know, but like if they don't accept that, but every summer I worked at a childcare center, or each summer I helped out at a camp, or I did something where if I wasn't
Working
able to
with
teach
kids.
in the classroom, I was able to do that.
Very
And I
important.
understand some people can't take those. Some people need to be working, serving positions because it
When I
pays
was-
way more.
When I was in high school, like as a senior, I took Spanish 4, and like the Spanish 4 students got to like at the second half of the year, we got to go to the elementary school and teach Spanish to the second graders.
That's so fun.
And it was like the whole reason I wanted to go all the way up to
Yeah.
Spanish 4. And I was like, this is great teaching experience.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm going to
But-
stock my
One of
resume.
my not co-teacher, but my like teammates that I teach with, she's awesome. She told me her crazy interview story. So she ended up interviewing for a job fresh out of college, and then she got a call from the principal the next day, said, hey, we would love to offer you the position. You know, we want you here. She accepts it, super excited. 2 hours later, he calls her back, says, I'm so sorry. I wasn't supposed to offer you this position. We want to hire you, but there's an involuntary transfer in the district and they get first dibs and first priority. So we're gonna have to rescind our invitation. And
Oh
she was
my
like,
gosh.
what? It ended up obviously working out, but I can't imagine if that would have happened to me. Because getting that first teaching job is awesome. Like
Oh
that's
my
such
gosh, I
a
would have
cool
been
feeling.
devastated.
I would have lost my
Mortified.
mind.
A friend of mine, she worked as like a para for the school for a while. And then the night before school started, she gets a call that's like, hey, you want to be a first grade teacher? Because she had applied there and they're what? So her and her wife went in like that night and just like anything they could put on the walls.
No, my
they were
brother.
trying to like,
Gosh.
So my brother teaches 5th grade also, and when he got hired at his school, it was 3 days before school started.
Yeah.
And the classroom they put him in was literally, their school is set up so weird. It's literally like there's a hallway, and then there's classrooms, and then a door attached to each classroom with another classroom behind it.
No.
So to get from classroom A
Oh, no.
or the
You have to go
hallway to
through the-
classroom B, you got to go through this classroom
Oh.
to go to that. It's
So
so
does
annoying.
that
That's
mean
not
the kids
distracting.
interrupt his class?
It's so
Crazy.
weird. Yes, it is so weird. So he was in this classroom in
He's
the
like,
front.
bar the door.
Right.
And it was being used as a storage room. So we had to go to his school
And clean
and
it
take
out.
all of the boxes of old books and stuff out. We put them in the hallway. The custodians had to like take them all away. We had to like slap together a classroom
Yeah.
in like 36 hours. We're like, all right.
Have y'all ever
open
walked
house is
into-
Friday.
Have y'all ever walked into a school to do an interview and there was like just something going down, like somebody fighting or something? Like, I feel like people be on their best behavior when somebody's coming in for an interview, but I wonder if you're
No.
you're a teacher that listens to the podcast, like if you walked into a school and like
Was-
somebody
All hell
was
was breaking
jacking
loose.
in the front office, like
Did I
something
told you-
crazy was
I
happening.
think a couple episodes I
Comment,
said what
like,
happened.
Comment.
What?
and tell-
I was finishing my interview and I was doing the paperwork process and doing all that stuff, and a little like 2-year-old that could barely walk walks into the room. I'm like, what is this? He
What is this?
He
Jerry.
walked out of his classroom and no one noticed.
What?
I,
Oh, yeah,
I
and then you were
grabbed,
like,
I grabbed him. I
no.
took him to the director. I said, "Yeah, this isn't for me." And I
Oh, I
left.
thought you were like, I'm hired.
Oh,
No,
my goodness.
I was
And on
absolutely
that
not.
note,
I want to hear
watch
those
kids.
crazy stories.
Watch
Have you
your
ever
kids.
gone to an interview and then like the other people who are also interviewing for that job are sitting
there.
there.
Oh, you see them? Oh, like it's
You're
fight
trying
night.
to size them up.
You trying to be nice, and you're like,
You look like you ain't got no
there's
classroom
a
management.
great clip of NBA player named Jimmy Butler of him losing his mind as he's leaving a game. He goes, Tobias Harris over me? Because he's a guy that he just balled up
Oh
on.
my
And that's
gosh.
how I felt. I remember walking into this interview and I saw the person leave. I'm like, Jill over me? What?
Jill's
Get
crying.
you, Jill.
Oh my gosh.
Jill over me. All right, that's perfect send off. People, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Good luck to anybody who's interviewing, whether
Yeah,
you're
good
first
luck.
year or you're transferring, whatever it is. Make sure to memorize that school mission statement and make sure you say it right. We'll see you guys later.
Bye, best friends.
Oh, okay. You're still here. Do you have nothing more fun to do right now? That's fine. Make sure to like and subscribe to us. Hit that bell thing so it rings and lets you know when we put up a new episode. And then go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, and give us a 5-star rating. We might even be on Yelp. I don't know yet. And also, if you have time, click one of these videos, okay? Who needs a lesson plan, right? I don't.